Oh yeah, 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 we're going live. We're going live. Oh yeah, y'all come on. We're going on. We're gonna have some fun tonight. Everybody talking about vocal coaching, talking about artist development, talking about some things that we all need to know about being artists in this industry, and most importantly, about the singer-songwriter, because it really all starts with the song. Can you learn to be a good singer, or do you have to be born with a good voice? Yes. Both of those things are true. I do believe that there are God-given gifts. The same way that I think some people are really gifted at athletics and other things. We have particular genetic coding that might give us a little bit, better edge at something. People are born hearing in harmonic color. I was, and it's not because I couldn't have been an architect or a pilot or a plumber or anything else, but I ended up being a singer because that's what was natural to me, and that's also what was natural, just in my art form. But I want you to understand that it does require a fair amount of exercise and working out. The same way that if you want to keep your body in really good shape, you have to work out. You have to take care of your health. You have to eat good food. You have to understand what that means for your particular ecosystem, because we're all different. And yes, there are some things that hopefully are the same about all of us. I'm hoping that everybody has 2 eyeballs and 2 nostrils and 2 vocal cords. Yes, you have 2 vocal cords. But within the confines of your ecosystem, we are unique individuals. We all carry a very specific thumbprint, not just on our thumbs, but in our voices. And so you do have to condition and learn those things that make you better. As far as being a good singer, being a good singer means beauty is in the eye of the beholder when it comes to art. Beauty is in the ear of the beholder when it comes to good. So I want you to understand. Well, look, speaking of good,
Hey,
that was perfect timing for, who's good and who's not. I see you there. Everybody welcome Rob Thomas to the platform tonight. Say, hey.
hey, how you doing, Mama Jam?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Sorry, I hope I'm not late. I just jumped in home.
You are perfectly fine. You're always on time, so I'm not worried about anything like that. So thank you. We were just talking about, somebody asked if you could learn to be a good singer, if you had to be born with it, and I kind of told them both, you know what I mean? And we were just kind of having a conversation about that, but enough
Yeah,
about that.
I think I was listening. I think there's 2 things happening, right? You're either someone who has, I think American Idol is always a great example. You're someone who has a technically amazing voice. Sometimes people have a technically amazing voice and you don't care because you don't have a point of view. And sometimes you're like a Tom Petty or you're like a Willie Nelson. I'm not sure if that voice is technically great, but that point of view is so good that
it's also a great voice.
It resonates. Yeah, it is a great voice, but not technically a great voice. It's just a great voice. It's warm and it feels like a hug.
Well, that's why I was saying, beauty is in the ear of the beholder. Like a very imperfect singer that I worked with, and I can say this because he said I could, a guy named Garrett Fry, and he didn't even sing in tune all the time, but the character in his voice just drove me. Oh, you got your precious with you. Let me see. Look at that. Which one is that?
That's Ollie.
Hey, Ollie. Hey, Ollie. Anyway, thank you for sharing Ollie with us too. But Garrett had one of those character voices, and it was that kind of thing that grabbed you, that made you really relate to how he sang, what he sang. It was that thing that drew you into his. I think you're that way, and I
Yeah, I am. I've never been a technical, and everything that I got from you. Like just learning how to take the instrument that I had and learn how to use it. It was a game changer, because if you listen back to that first record, that was work to get.
Well, we were trying to get it there. No, but you know what? But you still it still reached out to people. There was something about the raw authenticity of those early vocals that still remain a part of your sound. And yes, you've learned a whole lot about a lot of things. Touring and keeping your voice up and staying healthy and all kinds of other crap like that. But not crap, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that thread of you being raw and real is still in everything that you do, which I'm very proud of because that's your thumbprint.
Yeah, and I think, I tell people that too. Like, even if you're someone with an amazingly technical, great voice, also really, when you're singing though, think about the lyrics that are coming out of your mouth. Think about the message that you're sending. Think about the words
Yeah.
that you're saying, because
Yeah.
that connection is still going to matter even more. I mean, that's the difference between somebody who just has an amazing voice and a Whitney Houston. She lived it and felt it every time that she understood
Yeah.
the lyrics. And I think that's really important to know, that you're conveying a message to an unknown listener. And that's
Yeah.
what you're doing the second that you set into that recording booth, is you're sending it out across the miles to, hopefully millions of people, but you don't know who it's going to land on, and you have to mean what you say when you do it. And I think that's really, intent is just as important as anything else. Intent is just as important as my warm-ups. Like right before I step on stage, taking that second, no matter what's happening in our life, for us to stop, decompress, leave it behind for just the next couple of hours, and not worry about, what text we just got or what's going on in our personal life, and just being the song and be
Right.
the material.
Yep.
That's a game changer in how you're going to connect with an audience or not.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I talk to people about onomatopoeia, being able to make the words of your song sound like what it is you're singing about. That's the heart piece of it, like you're talking about, really focusing on the actual performance, and being ready for the performance, but then meaning what you're singing, even if it's a simple song. It doesn't, like take, well, I was going to say Crazy by Willie Nelson. It's not such a simple song, but
No.
it really kind of is, but it's also deep on the other side of that. But his original recording of that was amazing. It's amazing just because of, he made it hurt. He made you hurt when you heard it.
Yeah, if you go back to a lot of early, like if you go back to like Sam Cooke,
Yeah.
these are simple melodies, but
Yeah.
then if you're
Great great
yeah,
vocals.
and these great vocals, and also these are some happy songs with a lot of pain behind them.
Yeah.
This is a man who was going through a lot of stuff at that time,
Absolutely.
who the world didn't know about. Nat King Cole. There were a lot of especially great black artists that were coming out in the 40s and 50s and 60s that were singing very happy moments, but there was tinged with pain, and that pain is what we latched onto. That connection, there was a depth to it that I think that when you come out and you're just a lounge singer and you just sing it because you think you know the words and you know the lyrics and you could just sing it, that's why it doesn't connect in that way.
Yeah, that's karaoke. That's the glorified karaoke thing, versus being the artist. So, because people know you as a singer-songwriter, and you're one of my favorite writers on the planet, just because I know you as a great songwriter, and I've known, I don't know, how old were you when we met? 18, 19?
Oh, well, more than that. Our first record came out over 20 years ago, and you were there in the booth with me making it.
Yeah, which was a fun story.
Yeah, and I met you before Marty, and I've been with Marty for 22 years. So I think we're looking at 23, 24 for me and you.
We need to have an anniversary, when this stuff. But and you tell Marty I said, hey, please. But so you're a songwriter, and I know that you. I know about your early life and a lot of things that you went through growing up. You wrote out of a place of authenticity and pain of your own life. And because of that, your lyrics are so relatable. Can you maybe share a little bit about, your process as a songwriter? I've seen you doodle and do other things, but let folks know from a songwriting vantage point as an artist, how do you keep yourself in your writing and also writing from that place?
Well, for me, everything first off has to be melody. Melody is the key. For me, I always think about melody is, for everybody, whether they realize it or not, melody is what draws you into a song. Even if you love what they're saying, you don't know that at first. Like melody is the hot guy or the hot girl at the bar, right? When you see them across the room, the melody draws you in because there's a visceral connection to it, And then if you're lucky, you go over to that hot guy or that hot girl at the bar, and they have a good lyric to tell you. And that's where a relationship could really form between you and that song. Yeah. But it doesn't always work that way. So for me, there's always a melody that's just floating around in my head. And then, it's almost like you're writing a movie. That melody sets a tone. It sets a lighting. It sets a stage for what you might be talking about. And then you click on one lyric, and that one lyric or that one line and then you start to build out from there. I mean, I say you, I mean, that's how I do. I start to build out from there. I mean, I know a lot of great writers that start off with lyrics. They have full lyrics, and then they come in and they put those to a melody.
Yeah, not me. I'm a melody. I have musical diarrhea. I'm a music girl too, and I play chords and then I come up with a melody and I don't know. I mean, I've written some songs like you said with whole lyrics, but probably like 2 in my entire life.
Yeah.
Most of it is around a melody for me too, and I respect people like Bernie Taupin, you know, or you know, he can just write a song. And
yeah, by the way, you know, I've written with Bernie. It's funny because
know.
I got to see an example of how Bernie does it and how he did it with Elton.
Yeah.
He writes a poem, but like that poem could be 2 pages long.
Right.
And it doesn't really have a song structure, but he expects the writer to extract the parts that he feels are the ones that should be repeatable and feel like this feels like a verse and this feels like a lyric for a chorus. And he just, and he's very unprecious about that once he gets that out, you know, which I think is very, very cool, because when it's somebody like Bernie, you're worried that you're shitting over everything he just did. I feel like it's this weird, like you write a melody and then it becomes a song. And for a second, you're like, what is this? Like, it's something. I know it's something. And you rack your brain and you're like, oh, no, it's not. This is me. This is actually me. Like, it's almost like there's like, I don't know that you could teach someone to be a better writer, but I don't think you can teach someone to be a writer, in that you're either someone who lives with that radio station that's just above your head, that's playing songs that don't exist yet, or you're not. Yeah. And so, like, if you're lucky enough to tap into that and you feel these melodies that come out of nowhere, and you're like, what is it? You're like, oh shit, that's nothing. That's me. That's a song. Like,
they have medication. They have medication for that, you know.
Yeah. And you feel like the god of creation for like a second, and then you hear another song and you're just like, oh, I feel like a hack, and I feel like I've never written a song ever. So you're like, also, you're driven by self-doubt, and you're driven by the idea that you're not good enough, you know, like the same thing that got me started in doing this.
So 2 things that's really important, because I know as an artist growing up, there was the first thing, you know what, even today at 63 years old, if I walk off of a stage, the first thing that I want to know is, you know, was it good? Was it, you know, how was it? Was it good for you? I mean, just that natural thing that we want to know that what we're doing is good enough. And I know that it is. It's not like,
yeah, but a lot of times people think that you're doing it because you like, you know, you want that kind of affirmation because because you have this ego, but it's the opposite. You're actually you're curious. You're like, okay, was that one okay? Like, how?
Well, and you're putting yourself out there. I mean, every time we sing or perform, you really are putting yourself out there. And it's not like, obviously you're accomplished at what you do. You're a highly regarded artist and singer and performer, and well experienced at this point. I mean, I remember, you know, early days when it was like, you know, maybe the you know, Buckhead, you know, playing the club for, I don't know, 400 people. Then all of a sudden it was, you know, 20,000. It's like
400. Wow. That's generous.
No, but I mean, you know, when we went Buckhead Theater and places like that where you played early on.
Yeah.
And then when, like, you know, when 3 a.m. and all that came out and people really like, I mean, it burned all the way across the United States in a wonderful way for you guys, for Matchbox 20. All of a sudden you were playing 16,000, 20,000, you know, folks.
Yeah, and we weren't ready yet. Like, we weren't ready at the very beginning of that. You know, somewhere around the second record, touring that second record, we started to really become a really good live band. And by the third record, we really hit our stride.
No, the band, I mean, come on, the band was good. I understand what you're saying. You really found your stride. By Mad Season, you guys became more professional and you were more cohesive. You were still good. You were great in those early days, you know?
Yeah, I think that we felt like we knew what we were doing by the time we did that second record. We had toured the world. But, you know, there's a fearful time where you're doing really well in the charts and you're out there and you're up there with a lot of those people, but you're not there yet. And you know it. Yeah. And so, like, Paul and I, you know, especially Paul and I, we would sit at those festivals and just sit on when we weren't playing, we'd spend the rest of the time sitting on the side of the stage, taking notes and just figuring out what we were doing wrong and what they were doing right, you know? And we'd get mad at the other guys if they weren't. We're like, why are you guys not going to fucking school right now? Because we're at fucking school right now.
So I love that. Talk about that. Like, okay, the fact that you knew early on, you know, that first tour out of the gate, and so much was happening. So many, it happens fast. I mean, can you talk to the people about that a little bit, about how fast success really does come, and then you're in the process of your creativity, and then you've got all this other stuff to balance, but taking notes, doing things like you want to be better, and
Yeah, I
observing.
mean, I think that, I mean, in one hand, like if you're 18, 19 right now and it's starting off, I'm not sure how to speak to that because it's such a different experience. The
Oh yeah.
beginning,
Yeah.
whatever the beginning is such a different way of getting it out there. You know, like my son right now with his band Handmade House, they're just writing songs, and I literally will just wake up and put on Spotify, you know, new playlist day,
Yeah.
and my son's band is on there, and
How
I'm
old is he now?
he's 21.
21.
Yeah,
Okay.
he just graduated from Berklee College of Music. He's moving out to LA.
You're making me all stop
He's
it.
doing his thing. I know, isn't that crazy?
Wow, that's nuts. Yeah.
But I do know that I think there are some things that have to be universal, which is that you never can plan for success because your idea of what it's going to be before you have it is not what it's actually going to be.
Right.
Because you had this idea because you've seen it always as an outsider, but when it's happening in real time, it's integrated as a part of your life, and your life is changing as while your career is changing. So
Yeah.
you're trying to figure out who the fuck you are as it relates to the success at the same time.
So you remember being young and being a teenager? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question for you. How did you work on your high-end chest voice? And Tommy wants to know how did you get to the point to where you were comfortable singing like all out high end and even doing some falsetto stuff, which early on you didn't really do a whole lot.
No, and I don't do them as much either because also, you know, I have and I've talked about this with you, and you've actually explained it to me. I have a growl, that certain growl that happens in my voice.
Right.
And part of the reason that growl happens is because you're misusing your voice. And so in a lot of ways, yeah. And so in a lot of ways, you are like beating up your voice so that it can heal in a certain way. And when it heals in a certain way, it's powerful and it's strong. Yeah. But I lose some of that falsetto that I can do when I'm in the studio making a record. When I'm live after 3 weeks in, my voice sounds stronger than it's ever sounded, but that falsetto isn't where it used to be.
Right.
And that's just something that I give up for the other part. Yeah. I think I was always chest voice, strong voice. It wasn't until I started to do vocal lessons and I started to do vocal training that I could realize that I actually had softer, more nuanced things that I had to offer. Yeah. That if you listen to the first record, there's a lot more boop, 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 very matter of fact, very structured, but there's a lot less kind of playing with the phrasing and playing with time, and totally. Like I can do now. So I think I was always kind of like, you got what I need. Like that was me, you know, all the time. And I didn't realize that I could actually, you know, bring it out and make it softer. Sammy, hold on. Look at this. Got this little nugget right here. What are you barking at? Oh. All right, come on. You can go inside. Go inside. Look at him.
Oh, Sammy and Ollie. So do you have two questions? A favorite song lyric of yours, and do you have it's like people ask me, you know, who's your favorite artist you've ever worked with? It's like, don't ask me that. So I'm not going to ask you but if you have other songs.
No, my favorite artist I've ever worked with is Willie Nelson, hands down.
Well, I know that.
It's Willie and Carlos. I mean, because Carlos now is Carlos is my family. Yeah. Like, you know, Carlos and I talk almost every 2 or 3 days. Yeah. We're you know, we get in like these long text threads back and forth and send each other weird emojis and songs, and he'll send me like, you know, old footage of him playing, and I'll send him like old footage of me. Yeah. Like, so obviously it's easy for me to say that I have a favorite because Carlos is like, you know, is everything. Yep. And it's an easy answer because I don't offend anybody.
No, but I mean, I know that about you, and I know those too. How about your songs? Do you have a song that you've written? I know that you're continuing to write, but do you have one that's just like, this is just something really near and dear to your heart, or just like, okay, this is the song that's my favorite. I think it's a great song that I've written.
Sometimes like the process of writing, you feel so removed from it in a way because it doesn't feel like a part of you. It feels like something that's happening to you when you write it, that like years later, I'll be in the middle of a show and I'll sing If You're Gone or something. And I'll just be like, while I'm singing it, I'll just be going, well, this is a really nice song. Like, this is kind of nice, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't think about it too much. And I'll almost forget the next lyric because I'm trying to think, I was thinking about just how good that last lyric was. Like, but it's like, I don't sit around patting myself on the back the whole time. It's just that sometimes you're in the moment. And I think especially like when the moment that you're in, like you're going through something in your life, that song really fits. And so like all of a sudden that night I'll be like, oh wow, that's what that line really means. Like now I really get it, you know. Now I'm going through it.
Means more to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's more about that. I mean, everything is like this mosaic. And then I think if anybody ever asks, I think any songwriter, what's your favorite song? It's whatever I'm working on right now.
It's the new baby.
Yeah, my last song is my favorite song I've ever written.
Yeah, that's kind of the new baby, you know, syndrome. It's like, you know, you can't really not love what you're working on now. But I think about I remember I remember standing in the booth with you, putting my hands, you know, on your shoulder when you were cutting 3 a.m. because you were so pumped up, and people heard that. They heard that energy over the microphone. And you've always been a singer to me, I think, who's delivered, like really delivered. You got a bird that is like singing a song. It's great.
Yeah, I know. So I've got 4 million of them out here.
I know, but it's kind of cool. We got a symphony going on.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
But you know, I mean, you just kind of, do you think about mic technique and all that? I mean, there's certain things I know that you've learned just by doing, and mics that you like, and vocal chains, and you know, I have my favorites, but when you go in there as a vocalist, you really just kind of deliver, or are you really thinking about some other parts of that?
No, I think I'm really glad to say that now I don't. Because I thought about it so hard and long that it just became like I catch myself doing exactly what I need to do. I catch myself knowing when I need to move away from the mic so I can deliver the way I want to deliver. I catch myself, you know, turning it up because I want to get soft and I want to make sure that I hear the nuances in my ear.
Right.
You know, but just kind of like mixing myself sometimes as you're singing, like, you know, your right hand is down on the knob, you know, like kind of adjusting because you know that part's coming up and you don't want the engineer to have to deal with it with your shit. So you just kind of figure it out as you go along.
Yeah.
I mean, because for me, like, it has to feel like I don't think about anything at all. Like I'm just in there. Like, I mean, I come out sweaty, you know, I mean, I still want to scream at the mic and I still want to flail my hands around and I still want to feel like I'm standing there singing it to a crowd of people. Yeah. And I feel like it comes across better that way, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, you've incorporated that live though, too. I mean, I think you're one of the most consistent singers from the booth to the stage. You know, a lot of people sound really different, and sometimes that's the magic of the studio, but you really, I think, have adapted your sound and who you are as an artist in the booth, and you take that right on stage with you. You're very consistent that way, which is a hard thing to do. It's hard.
Well, I've been fortunate, you know, like Matt Soletic is a big part of that. Matt Soletic is, you know, was produced me for most of that's right, 50. Yeah. So like Matt, you know, taught me how to make those records, and at the same time, he was a musician himself. He was a young guy, like my age. Yeah. And so he understood the need for that kind of visceralness, for lack of a better word. And so I think because of that, he always put me in an environment where I could do that. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that's what making records was. There was never like having to make the difference between what I did on stage and what I did in the studio. Matt just made it so I lived in an environment where I could do what he loved when he saw me on stage and make that the thing that I do in the studio.
So that's a good point about production and people who capture that. So, you know, in working with artists and doing production, that's something that's really important to me, is making sure that I'm capturing the very best that artist has to give me. So, I mean, we make records and do all the stuff that we do, but Matt, and Matt is a great musician, and was a client of mine when he was like 15 years old. That's how I know you. Yeah. So, I mean, giving him credit where it's due, that bringing that musicianship and also loving the music and loving you as a performer helped to hone that skill set in you, which is really important to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really, everything got me to the point where, you know, 20 something years later, I make a record with Butch Walker, and I wind up in my studio at my house cutting my own vocals and comping my own vocals and getting them the way that I want them. It's something that I literally could not have done up until the point that I did it.
Yeah. That's pretty cool too, though, that it's evolved to that point to where you're comfortable hearing and getting that and then turning that over. And I love Butch too. Butch is a great.
Oh no, and that's right. And he's another Atlanta guy too. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we love Atlanta, don't we?
Yeah.
So, talk to me about, being on the road and being, record business, and you're a good businessman. You were a kid that started out, but you've done really well. You've managed your own business. You're solid, and you have a a long-term career. I mean, let's look at the like, I think it's 20 years for Mad Season, right?
Yeah, yeah, a couple days, like last week.
Which is crazy when you look at that, and the just the lineage of you and what you've done. How hard is it at this point for you? I mean, I know you love the road, and I know that you love to perform, so that I know about you. But tell me about that. Tell me about touring, and what the preparation now for you to be able to do what you do, and to every night after night go out there and do that.
Yeah, I do, like, for me, it's all about the live performance, it's literally everything about it. It's the smell of the bus when you step out, and the sound of the humming, and walking in, and the camaraderie with all the crew and the band and everybody that you're traveling around with. Like, it's this kind of, it's an unbelievably beautiful scenario for a person like me to kind of always have all of these senses, kind of coming alive every day.
Yeah.
I think
you're an endorphin junkie. You're an endorphin junkie. Yeah.
I didn't start getting, I started to become more of a physical performer as I got older, which I didn't realize was going to be so hard on my knees and the rest of my body. Like, to really, like, feel at the end of a 2-hour show the next day, like I just played a sport. You know what I mean? Like, my knees hurt, my body hurts because I'm contorting myself in ways that I didn't realize I was going to, and I'm jumping off of things, and I'm flying around, and I'm not sure how long that part can last.
Not terribly long.
It's always the same thing too. Like, for the first few nights of rehearsal, I go all out, so because I know I'm going to lose my voice, so I lose it, so that I have a day or two to get it back, because it always comes back stronger than when I lost it. Yeah. And there's always that little, there's, the thing that I hate is.
But you take the recoup time, though. That's important.
I do, and I try to be really good. I mean, how I get. Listen, sometimes mistakes are made on the road. There's some drinking.
Stop that.
But the point is that the only thing that I don't like is, if on a long tour, like the last one we were out for, just on one leg, was like 3.5 months or something. Yeah. 6 nights a week, and every day I wake up and I go, just to check it, Yeah. And there's this feeling of, like, I mean, and the feeling of dread, like, literally up until you step on stage, and you're like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. And then you do, and you kill it. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, fuck it, I'm invincible. Bring the wine. And then you go down the road.
No, you're not. But honestly, and we can be honest about this. You really, you live your life differently now, and you have done a lot with your health, and how you keep up with your physique. I mean, that, early on, you were a kid, and you were doing. I mean, I was a kid. There are a lot of things that we did then that we might do differently now, and so it is about understanding and appreciating and knowing where those kind of lines, those boundaries are, I think, and not going over them. I've certainly gone over boundaries in my lifetime and learned some pretty hard lessons by that. And I think operating inside that line is a good place to be. And you know what your limitations are.
Well, I mean, listen, my marriage was a big part of that,
I love your sweet wife, and I give her all the high
she's
praise.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And there's I got grounded through that. Yeah. I mean, she, the perfect marriage, she allowed me to continue to let my freak flag fly, and to be, as irreverent and weird as I needed to be, and, and have, all the things that she fell in love with me when she met me, let me keep those things. But at the same time, there's a lot of destructive properties of youth. There's a lot of anger that gets misrepresented and doesn't know where to go. And so it goes on in odd places. And so I think finding someone to help you work through that helps you channel that things a lot better. So then all of a sudden, all that angst and any of that anger and all stuff, it could go into the music where it needed to go, and it could go into the writing where it needed to go, and not spill out into all my personal relationships and just taint the water, where I live.
What a powerful statement. What a great a great tribute to Marisol, but also what a great statement for you to make, and how it helped to channel that, because you can still have, you know, all of the same stuff, because that's who you are, but it's about how you channel that through, and you continue to make some of the greatest music, and music that stands the test of time. Which that's why I know that you're a great songwriter, is because your songs are as good today as they were 20 years ago. And that is just the truth. There are a lot of songs that people write that are kind of, let's throw this against the wall and see what happens because it's trendy. You're not a trendy songwriter, although some of your music has been trendy and has trended. But the truth of the matter is it stands the test of time. It's timeless. And that I give you high credit for that, because that's what makes you great to me. You're always relevant, but then if we go back 20 years ago, 3 a.m. is still absolutely as relevant as it could be today, if that makes sense.
That's nice of you to say. I mean, I think that there's a luck that comes into, you're going to do what you're going to do. I mean, if what you're doing is real and comes from you, then you're going to do what you're going to do no matter what's happening. If you're lucky, what you're doing coincides with what's happening at some point in the zeitgeist of popular culture. And if that happens, then you might be able to do it long enough so that you have a career. I feel like if you're doing the thing that's popular and you're fabricating it, then it's going to be hard to do because it's not going to feel real to other people.
Yeah.
So I was really lucky that what I was doing was kind of what people wanted to listen to when we first started out, especially. And so I think that's what bought me the ticket so that I could take the ride. If you didn't have that, then maybe I wouldn't be here in a place where, I'm not so worried anymore about world domination, and I'm not worried about chart topping success. I have a group of initiated people that I'm making music for, that I know want to listen to it whenever I want to make it.
Sure.
And that's the biggest gift of all. And I think that's what that early success really got me.
Yeah. Well, and you have an established fan base, and it is about the band. It's also about you, Rob Thomas. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of cool. You get to really enjoy that duality, if you will. So, yeah. Well, I love you. Like
I love you.
There ain't no tomorrow. I mean, you're we've known each other for a long time, and I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful that you are willing to share your time with me, and to let people see the relationship, and also know that relationships matter a whole lot in our business, don't you think?
Yeah, no, it's really key. And I think more so as we get older and you realize the ones that really stuck around, they stuck around for a reason, like it's every time that I get to see you, it literally feels like my heart is warming every time that I get
it's always my birthday too,
I know. I know, it seems to be that way. Planning my tours around you.
Aren't you sweet? I love that. Well, anything else you want to? I don't want to take up your whole night. And anything else you want to share with my listeners and my lookers?
Wow, not that I can think of. We postponed this Matchbox 20 tour. We're going to try and get it back next summer. We're going to see how that goes.
Yeah.
And other than that, I've been writing like a madman. So,
good.
I'm not sure where it's going to land, but I've been also doing a lot more co-writing, which is a lot of fun. I haven't done that in a while, like really doing sessions with other writers that I've never met before. And just kind of getting a lean on some other talent for a minute. It feels really good.
Yeah. That's a great thing. We'll talk about that later, because it's a hookup thing. But anyhow,
yeah.
That's good to know though. Is that still kind of a cool process for you?
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's because a lot of people can't collaborate really well.
It's just, I keep finding, like, it's always such a personal thing for me that I do solitary.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you get with a good group of people and you're just like, holy shit, that's so much better than what I would have done. Like, I never would have gone there. And then it takes you to another place, Yeah. And then you realize that, there's merit in both. I mean, sometimes you need to be alone with yourself in the room and your thoughts, because you're going to get something out of it. Like, I wouldn't have got a Her Diamonds, if I was with somebody else, but we would have never gotten how far we've come if I wasn't with the guys in the band. And so I think, you need, flavors in your life, just like food.
Yeah. You need some salt and pepper and some spices sometimes. Yeah. Well, you're spicy enough for me, and I love you. And
all right.
Thank you for coming on and for sharing with everybody.
All right. It was good to talk to you, baby. I love you.
I love you too, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. So, words of wisdom from one of the greatest songwriters and artists that I've worked with for you tonight. I hope that you were able to garner some nuggets from Rob, and also just his process, which is awesome. And everybody's different, but I think that his process is one of, starting with that melody and then moving on into his own storyline. So that's what I got from listening to him talk about his writing process. Some vocal questions here. Jordan wants to know, what does alcohol and dairy do to the voice? Here's something really important for you to understand. Alcohol does three things to your voice. First of all, um, it's an evaporative. So if you put alcohol on your hand, it's going to dry your skin out. If you put alcohol on your body, it dries your body out. So one of the things we're trying to do is keep you hydrated as a singer. Alcohol dries you out. So drinking and trying to walk on stage and sound great, well, there you go. You're going to have a drier voice, and your body is going to be drier as well. Alcohol is also an anesthetizer. It's going to put your central nervous system to sleep. That's how we get drunk. But it also puts the nerve endings in your, in the rest of your body to sleep. So if you're screaming and yelling, and you're not going to feel it as much as you would if you were, sober and cognizant. The third thing is that alcohol is processed through your liver. Your liver is one of the primary functional organs for your throat. According to ancient Chinese kinesiology, there is a process that every part of your body has a corresponding organ, and your vocal cords, your liver is that organ, kind of like the watchman for that. So if your vocal functioning goes down while your liver is sidetracked processing alcohol out of your body. So alcohol takes three pretty direct hits on your vocal functioning. What I always tell people is, if you're going to drink, and no judgment here, but if you're going to drink, don't drink and sing, kind of like don't drink and drive. If you're going to drink, do that when you're partying or afterwards, but not right before and certainly not while you're singing. Everybody says, well, it makes me feel better. I relax more. That's an excuse, I think, for lack of preparedness. And so for me, it's about understanding what it does to the rest of your body when you're doing that, when you're trying to, go into your athletic endeavor. Athletes are not going to drink a fifth of Jack Daniels before they go on the football field or before they play basketball. There's a reason for that. They want to be 100% at who they are and what they're doing. I think that as artists, we need to be 100% at what we're doing and who we are. So that's my take on alcohol for you. Had a really interesting question that came in this week, and it has to do with whistle tones. Whistle tones, the ones that, Mariah Carey is famous for, and Minnie Riperton and some other people that we've heard use those in recordings. And the question, Miata, I think is your name, thank you for your question, asked, can you develop a whistle register? And the answer is yes. It requires a fair amount of work and a fair amount of diligence, just because I want you to understand whistle tones. It's kind of like false chording. It's false tones that happen when somebody's singing. So it's not really, it's not exactly your full voice or your full falsetto. So it takes a minute to be able to understand how to do that. I'm not even going to show you. I mean, I can do whistle tones because I've kind of played with my voice enough to be able to get around to having them. It's not so much that I use them in anything that I do, but I thought it was kind of fun to be able to find that and to also understand how to help other people to get there. So yes, the answer to your question is you can develop whistle tones in your register. It takes a minute, and it's also more of a false chording, so it's not really true voice kind of stuff. Jonathan Robbins is asking me, do I have a favorite singer? Probably the person who had the greatest influence on me growing up as a young artist and singer-songwriter was Joni Mitchell, because I was a girl with a guitar, and so was Joni Mitchell, and that was one of the people that I was actually allowed to listen to as I was a young kid growing up. My dad didn't necessarily like rock and roll early on, and so we were somewhat restricted as to who we could listen to. And I really loved early Motown singers. I mean, I loved soul music, and since we're talking about in our culture right now, which we should have been talking about a long time, about Black Lives Matter, yes, they do. and Black influence in the music, and what I grew up in, Southern gospel churches. I mean, I couldn't help having that threaded through, my blues rock version of who I am and being a Southern girl. And so Joni Mitchell was that artist for me. She was using, she was playing with alternate tunings, and I never knew that. So my hands were on my guitar like this, and then I realized that somebody told me one day she was using alternate tunings. How easy was that? Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I've really enjoyed being able to bring some of my artists, people that I love very much, on board, and I'm really grateful for their time. I'm grateful that they're sharing the continuous relationship that we share, and also the fact that they still are working vocal athletes. Love that. So tune in next time. You just never knew who's going to drop by. So we'll see you next time. Ta ta.